As above, so below. As within, so without. As the universe, so the soul. What if evil isn't what we think it is? Not a horned being lurking in the shadows, not a curse, not even a moral failure, but a symptom, a signal, a rupture in the equilibrium of being. In Hermeticism, an ancient, spiritual philosophy whispered through the Egyptian temples, preserved by alchemists and mystics, evil is not a force opposed to good. It is not the enemy. It is the imbalance between opposites, the misalignment between the poles, the chaos born when one principle dominates and the other is forgotten. Evil is not a demon. It's an echo of disharmony. It's light distorted by excess or absence. It is fire without containment, water without form, desire without wisdom, order without love. Hermeticism teaches that the universe moves by correspondence, rhythm, polarity, and cause, and when these laws are forgotten or denied, distortion emerges, and in that distortion, we feel pain. We name it evil, but what we're really experiencing is a fall from balance. So, this journey isn't just about philosophy. It's about understanding how we fall out of alignment, how the sacred becomes corrupted, and how we can restore balance again. This is not a sermon. It is a decoding of nature itself, a descent into Hermetic truth, and a return to the place where even evil becomes a teacher. Everything is dual. Everything has its pair of opposites, hot and cold, light and dark, love and fear, joy and grief, good and what we call evil. But in Hermeticism, opposites are not enemies. They are simply the extremes of the same thing. This is the principle of polarity. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree by the Kybalion. So, what if evil isn't the opposite of good, but good pushed out of balance? What if cruelty is not born from pure darkness, but from a love that has decayed into obsession, power that has detached from wisdom, order that has forgotten compassion? What if the dictator was once a dreamer? What if the manipulator was once a child just trying to survive? What if the abuser once believed they were protecting something sacred? Evil is not otherworldly. It is excess. It is energy that has been pushed so far to one side that it becomes destructive. This is what Hermeticism teaches us. Don't fear evil. Understand it. Trace it back to the source. Find the virtue that's been corrupted. Injustice is justice diseased. Fanaticism is faith infected. Hatred is love inverted. Polarity shows us that every evil is the shadow of a forgotten balance, and every act of evil is a cry, not for punishment, but for realignment. There is a law you cannot escape, a beat that underlies the cosmos, a universal pulse. It moves the tides, swings moods, raises nations, and breaks them down again. This is the principle of rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall by the Kybalion. And if polarity explains the spectrum of evil, then rhythm explains its momentum, because nothing stays static. We rise into clarity, then fall into confusion. We love purely, then swing into fear of loss. We feel powerful, then become tyrants in disguise. And it's not personal, it's rhythm. Evil often emerges not from a single event, but from a sustained swing away from center, a pendulum left unchecked. A man doesn't become a monster in a day. He becomes one slowly, with every ignored feeling, every justified cruelty, every belief that swung too far from compassion and never returned. Hermeticism doesn't let you escape that law, but it does give you power over it. The Kybalion, the master of hermetics, polarizes himself at the point where he desires to rest, and then neutralizes the rhythmic swing of the pendulum. So, what does that mean? It means when you feel yourself consumed with anger, you do not suppress it, you balance it, you return to the center, you pause the swing before it becomes destruction. You recognize that evil is the moment when we stop swinging back. It is stagnant imbalance. It is the refusal to return to harmony. But the good news, the pendulum can always move again. Balance can always be restored, but only if you understand the rhythm of your own soul. The world teaches us to fear chaos, to believe that evil strikes like lightning sudden, without reason. A war breaks out, a man murders his family, a child starves, and we whisper in our horror, "Why did this happen?" But Hermeticism does not believe in accidents. The Kybalion. Every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause. Nothing happens without roots. Nothing emerges from the void. What we call evil is not arbitrary. It is the flowering of a seed long planted, a thought repeated, a belief fed, a wound left unhealed, a system built on greed, a man taught to deny his heart, a culture rewarded for domination. And so evil is not some dark spirit possessing a person. It is the natural consequence of choices that forgot harmony. We do not drift into evil. We arrive there through patterns. We say, "How could he do that?" But the real question, how long have we been ignoring the causes? Evil is the final fruit of an inner distortion made external, a delayed consequence. And once we stop viewing it as mystery and start seeing it as effect, we gain the power to trace it back, to interrupt it, to transmute it, because the one who understands causality can break the cycle. And the moment you stop being shocked by evil and start understanding its lineage, is the moment you begin to dismantle it at the root. We look at the world and we shudder at the cruelty, the manipulation, the violence, and we say, "That darkness that is out there, not in me." But Hermeticism whispers something uncomfortable, something sacred, the emerald tablet, as above, so below, as within, so without. This is the principle of correspondence, and it tells us what you see in the world is not separate from your inner state. There is no out there without an in here. So, what if evil doesn't just reflect others' imbalance, but your own ignored pain? The tyrants of the world mirror the tyrants in your mind. The ones who shame you, silence you, punish you for feeling too much. The wars mirror the constant fighting in your own heart, between who you are and who you pretend to be. The injustice in society reflects the lies you tell yourself daily about your worth, your fear, your buried rage. This is not blame, it's power, because if the outer world mirrors the inner, then the healing of the world begins within you. You want less cruelty in the world. Soften your judgments. You want less manipulation. Stop manipulating yourself to be likable. You want less war. Make peace with the parts of you you've exiled. The evil you see is not a separate species. It is the projection of unconscious imbalance. And so the mystical truth arises. You don't fight evil with anger. You heal it with awareness. You bring light, not by attacking the darkness, but by realizing the darkness was always a forgotten part of your own light, twisted, neglected, and waiting to be understood. The Kybalion. The all is mind, the universe is mental. Everything begins in thought. Before there is pain, before there is war, before there is betrayal or cruelty or destruction, there is a single thought: believe. I am separate, I am superior, I am powerless. They are the enemy. Love must be earned. I am not enough. These ideas seem small, but in the Hermetic view, these are not just passing shadows. They are seeds of entire realities. And when a thought is charged with emotion, fed by repetition, and left unexamined, it becomes a structure. It creates systems. It becomes law. It becomes nations. It becomes evil. Because when someone harms another, it's not simply because they are bad. It is because they've accepted a belief that justifies their separation from the other. And once a mind divorces itself from unity, from the all, from divine consciousness, the descent begins. This is the great Hermetic warning. The most dangerous force in the universe is not weaponry, it is unquestioned belief. So, if the universe is mental, and if evil is conceived first as a distortion in the mind, then liberation begins with thought. To heal evil, we must audit our inner dialogue. We must challenge the story. We must dissolve the lie, because no external reformation will ever last. If the inner world remains diseased, change your mind, and you change the world, because the world is mind, wearing form. The Kybalion. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. This is not about biology. This is energy. This is archetype. This is the sacred tension between form and flow, structure and surrender, fire and water, penetration and reception. In every soul, there is both divine masculine and divine feminine, and in every act of creation or destruction, those two forces are either dancing or warring. Evil arises when one principle dominates and suppresses the other. When the masculine becomes tyrannical, it demands control, conquest, rigidity, punishment. When the feminine becomes chaotic, it spirals into emotional manipulation, illusion, fragmentation. When the sacred balance collapses, we get institutions without compassion. We get compassion without structure. We get dominance disguised as order. We get passivity disguised as peace. And so evil, through this hermetic lens, is the expression of a fractured soul, where one half of the sacred principle has been exiled, or shamed, or left unfed. This is why the mystic must not just seek balance in the world, but in themselves. When your inner masculine is grounded and present, it becomes direction, clarity, stillness. When your inner feminine is honored and expressed, it becomes intuition, creativity, nourishment. When these two are united, the soul becomes whole again. And when the soul is whole, it cannot produce evil, because evil is not born in wholeness, only in division. So the work is not to kill one side. The work is to reconcile them, to become both the sword and the chalice, the mountain and the river. And in that inner marriage, you restore the harmony the world has forgotten. We are creators, not just of art or buildings or language, but of reality itself. In Hermeticism, all is vibration, all is thought, all is law. And as conscious beings, we are endowed with the divine capacity to generate reality internally and externally. But here's the terrifying truth. What we call evil is often the byproduct of creation divorced from wisdom. When we use thought without heart, when we use power without humility, when we shape reality for the sake of control, not connection, we become gods without conscience. And the universe does not stop us, because the laws of Hermeticism are neutral. They do not judge, they respond. Just like fire will cook a meal or burn a village, your creative energy will heal or destroy depending on its intent. The Kybalion, the lips of wisdom are closed, except to the ears of understanding. And so the tyrant manifests the same way the sage does, through belief, emotion, and will. One creates in harmony with the all, the other creates from fracture, fear, and forgotten soul. This is why evil feels so seductive. It's not an absence of power, it is power misaligned. You can manipulate, deceive, conquer, and still be a brilliant creator. But if your creation stems from insecurity, hatred, or pride, it will collapse, because creation without spiritual alignment is a house built on hollow ground. Evil, then, is not weakness. It is unconscious mastery, and that is why it's so dangerous. To destroy evil, you do not destroy the creator. You teach them to create with reverence again, with balance, with love, because when you understand how powerful you truly are, you stop using that power to harm. There is a question louder than all the rest. How do we fix this? The suffering, the cruelty, the wars, the systemic decay, the silent wounds behind smiling faces. We look outside and feel helpless, but Hermeticism never told us to start with the world. It told us to start within. As within, so without. The principle of correspondence. Healing the world is not done through outrage alone. It is done through alignment. When your thoughts match your actions, when your inner masculine and feminine energies are in union, when your beliefs reflect love and not fear, when your inner world reflects the harmony of the all, you become a node of sacred influence. You walk into a room and it changes, not through noise, but through coherence. Because people don't respond to words, they respond to vibration. They respond to presence, to congruence, to the stillness of someone who is no longer at war with themselves. And that's the work, not to save the world in a day, but to sit in silence long enough To recognize where you are still fractured. Ask, where do I still punish myself? Where have I given in to fear disguised as ambition? Where am I manipulating instead of listening? Where have I abandoned the sacred? Because the world is not healed by systems alone. It is healed by humans who remember they are sacred creators and who act like it. So no, you cannot fix everything. But if you realign your inner world, you contribute to the greatest magic Hermeticism ever offered. A reality that bends to inner truth. When you encounter darkness, whether in the world, in others, or inside yourself, your instinct might be to fight it, suppress it, or fix it. But that is the mistake most seekers make. Hermeticism, Jungian psychology, and spiritual mysticism all agree on this. Evil is not destroyed. It is understood, integrated, and transformed. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to become whole. And that requires you to turn toward the shadow in yourself and in others, not with hate, but with fierce compassion. If you suppress it, it will leak. If you fear it, it will control you. But if you look at it, really look, you'll begin to see the pain underneath the mask. That's where healing begins. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. This means what you call evil is not another substance. It is a distorted degree of the same energy. Power becomes tyranny when it lacks heart. Love becomes obsession when it lacks boundaries. Truth becomes violence when it lacks humility. So the answer is not to destroy the energy, but to recalibrate it, bring it back into balance. Every time you do this inside yourself, you restore the macrocosm. The world begins to mirror that shift. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who observes them. Don't believe every idea that passes through your mind. Observe it. Don't identify with the chaos. Return to the witness, the one who watches without judgment. That is where real power lies. That is where creation begins. When you sit as the observer, you stop being a puppet to programming and start becoming a conscious creator. Transmute. Don't react. Integrate. Don't exile. Witness. Don't identify. You are not here to play the old game of light versus dark. You are here to learn the alchemy of consciousness. And when you begin to heal the imbalance within, you become part of the few, the real ones, who help tip the collective scale back toward harmony. If something in this video reached into your silence, if it stirred a question, a memory, or a knowing you couldn't explain, then don't walk away unchanged. Let this not be content. Let it be a mirror. Let it be a doorway back to your own center. Subscribe not for noise, but for nourishment. Not for more information, but for reminders of what you already know deep down. Leave a comment, not for the algorithm, but for the next soul who needs to hear that they are not the only one seeing differently. And if you feel called, share this video, because sometimes all it takes is one sentence in the right moment to return someone to alignment. Welcome to the Innerverse. This is not entertainment. This is awakening.